the Prison City Podcast. When the bars go up, you're officially locked in.
Welcome to the Prison City Podcast. I am your unofficial host, Patrick W. Cutler, and we have a very special show here today for everybody. We have aliens expert on here today, Stuart, Jewell, to talk about aliens, and this is just going to be a fuckload of fun. Most of the panel tonight, I believe, is drunk, including Mahogany there, who's on a business call right now, can't talk. But let's just go around the table and talk to those people that can talk right now. And first, let's go to Mr. Pete Whitney himself, Jay Marsh.
What's up, everybody? How are y'all weeks? I know you guys are muted, so that's why I'm going to ask you guys questions now. So, hey.
All right, so we're going to skip down to Fat Cock 3000, Mr. Kelly Cut, who's currently in a hotel room in Southern Illinois.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm excited to do this podcast from abroad. We pulled into the Drury Inn in Mount Vernon, Illinois, and lo and behold, with our hotel room, we got a free meal. We didn't know this, and 3 free drinks each. However, Marissa's not feeling so hot, so I got 6 free drinks waiting for this podcast. Not joking.
And Mahogany, they're out in Seattle.
It's great to be here, and I'm actually in sunny San Diego today. It's beautiful to be back on the Prison City Podcast, and again, that's PCP. So I hope everyone's dropped a little bit of acid before this ridiculous conversation we're about to have.
So for our audience out there, so far we've been hitting fucking records so far every week. So we're up and going. So the last week's episode on COVID and everything for our audio listeners out there broke the single record week just on its own. So we want to up the game a little bit here more tonight and bring on an aliens expert in Stuart Jewell. He follows a lot of things in regards to aliens, conspiracy theories, what's really going on in this world. Stuart Jewell, please tell us what the fuck is really going on out there.
Yeah, so it's crazy world right now. Thanks for having me on Prison City Podcast, keeping it real with Prison Pizza. Oh, nice to see your smiling faces just after Kelly's wedding. So interested to see what questions we have. How informed do you actually want to be this evening, or if we're just sort of talking about Marianne Cameron's tit? So there's always that.
I mean,
you know what, Stu? I think it can be both. I think we can both be informed and also enjoy a good pair of fat titties.
That is correct. That is correct.
Hey, and Stu, no offense, but don't use my name, God damn it.
God. So, Stu, what do you think about the movie Enigma?
Oh, fucking Christ. Every time. Every fucking time.
When it comes to COVID-19, Stu, what are your thoughts and feelings?
If aliens had COVID-19, would it be gone by now?
How do you think COVID-19 and aliens affected the filming production of Enigma? That's the question of the night.
I mean, let's be serious for a minute. Let's ask, how does QAnon affect aliens?
All right. So now we're past all the bullshit.
Are we though? Are we though?
Let's circle this wagon back around. Let's go back and forth. Let's bring it back.
Yeah. You've made it through the first gauntlet. So, Stu, just tell us a little bit why you wanted to come on, I guess, now specifically to talk about aliens, which, again, before you even jump in, I'm 100 million% on board. How fucking arrogant do we have to be with all the planets out there? Oh yeah, no, we're the only ones. Yeah, it's just us. Fuck, such cocky American fucking bullshit to think we're the only ones. Stu, it's up to you now.
I just want friends. That's all I want is friends. So,
so that's why you're on this podcast then.
Okay, but seriously, let's Stu talk for 10 seconds.
Okay, there we go. All right, let's go.
Yeah, so with the cult thing that you guys had last time, surprised no one mentioned the Nexium cult. That was one of the biggest breakout stories from Hollywood that actually sort of showed that awakening was happening in that aspect of how bad Hollywood is. Well, we just watched that video of the UNICEF, that's a UN organization in Chile, showing an alien kid, obviously, and obviously it was pre-COVID-19 because there was no mask. But I mean, to have an ad where you're showing an alien come into a classroom. Mark was saying that COVID might be an alien invasion last week also too. So I'm trying to connect some dots for you, but that's a pretty big stretch still.
Oh yeah,
It was interesting.
I just want to clarify our audience out there listening before this episode started to watch. There is a UNICEF ad out there that Stu just showed us. A UNICEF ad has an alien child come to his classrooms, and everybody's kind of discriminating against this alien, bullying this alien, everything else. So it was a very bizarre ad. That was a real ad from UNICEF about bullying aliens. Anyways, back to you, Stu.
And when Mark talks about extraterrestrial aliens on other planets, that is a big part of it. But we also have to think more dimensionally, not only what we see spiritually within our own realm and the different spectrums of what we can and can't see, but also two different portals and dimensions that have been opened that we don't know about. So that's another part of the alien conversation. They're not really aliens, they're interdimensional beings, which there's been a lot of research and a lot of people are looking more and more into it. They actually discovered the first black hole last year, which is a big leap in mankind. And so I sort of want to get something pop culture in this conversation too, and that would be Skinwalker Ranch. They have that episode on the History Channel. They just had the season 2 premiere the other day, and they witnessed a lot of electrical phenomena on that ranch. Supposedly, a guy named Bigelow owned it before that, and he had the lock and key to anything. They discovered between alien mutilations, cow mutilations, and other phenomenon they had documented there, and this other group is there now. And so it's sort of interesting. The biggest part of that with any type of technology that anyone has, aliens, interdimensional beings, or humans, is the documenting of that cow. And it was interesting to come back to COVID. They said the veterinarian came out there 3 hours after he died to see how the cow died. And before he got there, they all saw huge spikes in electromagnetic currencies, and some guy's phone even got hacked, an Apple phone, and it was going crazy. And the veterinarian said that animals already have, this is the COVID thing, animals already have the cells in them that create different pneumonias and coronaviruses, and usually stress enacts that, and that's how that cow actually died, was from pneumonia from its own cells. So whether it was something in that area that stressed it out, that was altering it, or it just got scared for no reason, spooked by another animal, they're on that end of it, the stress caused that cow to die because it already had the cells of pneumonia inside its body, and it reproduced them in that moment when its immunity dropped from that startle. But Skinwalker Ranch, have any of you guys watched that series?
I'm familiar with it. I don't think I've seen a full episode, but I'm pretty familiar with it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Is it like Mahoney, where like I know I've heard of it for sure, but that's about it.
And just to clarify, were those the same guys that were on Joe Rogan? Did he interview these guys because they were on there talking about cows dying in a field and the local ranchers in Texas had no clue what was going on and blah, blah, blah? Are these the same guys, or am I completely off base there?
No, you're in the neighborhood. You
nailed it. Yeah.
Okay.
And Stu, can you just tell, like, so you got to imagine, like, these are podcast listeners. Most of them are listening, in their car, right? So you talked a little bit about aliens and interdimensional. Can you just kind of like explain how you're differentiating those two?
Oh yeah, because just more on to that. Do you mean interdimensional, like multi-universe theory, or what? To clarify, what is that about? Your thoughts?
Well, there is just a lot of study and advancements going on in it right now, between the technology we have to pick up different light spectrums and sound spectrums. So the research in that field has really accelerated exponentially since the big tech, since we started figuring that out. But something as simple as a Ouija board, you think it's harmless, it's a board game, but there are incidences where people have contact or different things happen. So are using that brand name or that type of witchcraft, are you actually allowing a different dimension? Are you opening a veil, or is that the spectrum around you that you just don't see? So there's lots of questions into different portals and how you can open things. I think my biggest quest in trying to look at all this is, how do you close those portals? How do you, exorcism in the Catholic Church has exponentially exploded in the last 10 years. And that's probably the best advancement that church has ever made, because it has no other advancement that they openly tell us. I mean, they have the Luciferian telescope, but they don't ever tell anybody what they see through that. So those portals and dimensions is interesting concept, especially if you think of refracted light. So the moon and balls of gas and different planets out there already, you can follow astrology and see how they line up at certain degrees, So there's that light out there that is reflecting or refracting, and you do pick it up, and it does go to certain parts of different galaxies and even in our own Earth. So
yeah, so I'm going to go into a little detail for our audience out there, because I've studied multiverse theory, multidimensional theory quite a bit, quantum physics. It's funny because I don't look like the most intelligent person in the podcast, but I am.
And he doesn't. If anyone's who hasn't watched, he looks like a fucking moron.
So
Wrong.
The multiverse / multi dimension theory basically is this: there is an unlimited amount of dimensions in this world, and going back to what Stu said, there is we have 3D everything else. There's all these different dimensions that we might not be able to actually see. So that's why you saw when we talk about that theory, it's about exorcism, stuff like that, or channeling these spirits whatever from different dimensions. But the other part of it, though, is the multiverse dimension thing, is that we all have unlimited amount of universes or dimensions we could all possibly live in. So there's a Kelly Cutler, there's head of Cutler Brothers Theaters right now. There's also Kelly Cutler that's homeless in San Francisco right now on the street. There's also Kelly Cutler that's a billionaire. These are different dimensions with which you could exist in, and your other person exists or whatever. But that's when they get the doppelganger theory, is that a person from another dimension, yourself from a different dimension, comes into your dimension, and then everything kind of gets fucked. So when you talk about the multi-universe, multi-dimension theory, it's about unlimited amount of dimensions in universes that we can't even possibly really imagine or see. But there's also different ways that we've tried to channel how you can shift between the different dimensions. So that's pretty deep. But anyways, question, Mahoney.
It's not so much. I guess it is it's a question for everyone that's on the panel, because I think obviously you can hear Stu talk, and you generally know how he feels, and I told you how I feel at the beginning of the podcast. I guess so. My question for the rest of the people is: one, do you believe there's life out there other than ours? And two, do you think that life has visited our Earth?
Well, I would say. Sorry, Justin, go ahead. Sorry.
I was making a bad joke. I'm like, was that for a panel or for the people out there listening to the podcast?
I don't think.
Well, clearly we don't have a whole live studio audience.
I'm gonna answer really quick. Just had two quick statements. Yes, and yes. It's almost impossible for there's no other life out there. That's that's literally impossible. We are the only life out there. And what was the second question? I already forgot.
Have they visited our planet?
Do you think someone's visited our planet from a different planet, basically,
yes,
or a different
universe? I think there's very good evidence out there. It comes to Ancient Aliens that they actually set our fucking planet up, is what my thought is on it. But anyways, let's get to J Marsh. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Son of a bitch. Go to Kelly.
All right, Kelly.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think there's any way there's not life outside of here. I think there's eternal life outside of here. If you look at how big and vast the universe is, it's ever expanding, it's infinite. And I said this in my graduation commencement speech a year ago. An infinite universe means infinite possibilities. That means infinite fucking possibilities. Someone named Kelly Cutler somewhere else on a planet named Earth is having this exact same conversation with the exact same guys on this podcast. That's infinite possibilities. In fact, there's not just one Kelly Cutler doing it. There's infinite Kelly Cutlers. I just think, they say we use what, I don't even know, 3% of our brain or 5% of our brain, not a lot of it. I think the human mindset is so watered down and so dumbed down to our situation right here that we think, okay, well, you got Mercury, Venus, Mars, that's what we know. But in all reality, we're probably the very tip top of a blade of fucking grass,
Oh yeah, we are a speck of sand in a beach. And I think it's the more people think about it and the older you get and the more you understand it, the more terrified people get, because one, it makes you feel insignificant and no one wants to feel that way. And two, it's just like, holy shit, that's a lot to swallow,
But it's also very freeing to think that way, because it's like they say you are the master of your destiny. You could do anything you want in this world, and we go, oh yeah, I get it. But it's so fucking true. It's like you're an ant on an ant farm. If you're looking at a anthill right there and one strays away a foot, does something different than the rest of them, do you think anything about it? Fuck no, you don't. But we do on Earth, because you're so close to your fellow mankind and everything, and you're afraid of judgments and blah, 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 all that. On to your second question, though, Mahoney, I don't know about visitations to Earth. I mean, I think that it sounds like they cover up anything remotely like that closely up. They cover it up, but I don't know about that part. That's an interesting question.
It's an interesting question. It's fun to think about Pat's response to that question too, about how, like, shit, maybe this is like, we're a setup, right? Like maybe all this was something that we're just the speck that someone started all these years ago, and now here we are thousands of years later. J. Marsh, I'd love to hear your commentary, you fucking fuck.
So I think honestly, I think Mark's an alien, clearly. Look at his face. He's too high up in like the poverty to like, money chart. And he just, acts weird sometimes. So anywho, pyramids are built all over the world, so I feel like aliens have been here. Pat, what do you think?
Well, I'll go back to what my initial thesis was. Like, I think aliens fucking built this planet. Going back to Mahoney said, I think it's a set to some degree. You talk about these Twilight Zone episodes and all these different things where it's like, or even just use basic analogies of American life, or the cows and everybody and the animals are feeding the humans. But what if some way we're actually feeding the aliens with our? That's my. You didn't hear that, Mahoney. I was thinking. My analogy was how like the cows are feeding us and the animals are feeding us and plants are feeding. What if we're not? Our whole existence is feeding some fucking alien force or something,
right? I mean, that's the whole. You look back at the movie The Matrix, right? And everyone's like, "Hey, maybe we're just in some sort of simulation." I mean, if you want to get really deep about it. So I guess, Stu, like, what led you to this? What led you down this road? Like, why did you think, like, man, do you remember like how old you were, or like what led you to like, boy, I'm interested in aliens and about like this deeper shit?
Well, I think it's mainly driven into pop culture, and everyone in my age group, my generation, and certainly a lot of younger. I mean, it's in major movies, and but living in Montana and seeing all the stars, I mean, it's interesting just to see satellites track and wonder what is out there on that realm of it. As far as your question, is there life outside this planet? You can set up a weather balloon and have a box that opens and closes up in the upper stratosphere. And when it comes back, there's life not from this planet inside that box. So that's a very obvious, there's no getting around. There is life outside of this planet. And I mean, even the microscopic pieces can evolve and become something beautiful. And in that aspect. I guess for me lately, this whole searching more and doing more research into aliens is more of a distraction to fuck all off of COVID and really just explore more of, different things and the hoodwink of debacles that's occurring right now.
So I want to take something that. Do you have anything? I'm going to take something you just said, Mahoney. Do you have anything more to add on that?
No, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to take something Mahoney just said. A very important point. He talked about simulation theory, and this is a very, very big point. Elon Musk. I mean, he's one of the smartest motherfuckers on planet Earth. Basically, came out a while back and said there is a 1 in billions chance that we are living in base reality. And so that's where it comes out with simulation theory. So are we all living in simulation? The second question would be like, if we are living in a simulation and we're not in base reality, is the simulation outside ours really fucking worth living in? Also, because it could be a fucking it could be a nowhere bro. What do you think about that, Stu? And we're just running across the panel here.
Well, I think if you look something back as simple as Skinwalker Ranch, not only what they're trying to figure out what's going on there, but also too just who's making it. It's A&E Television through History Channel. A&E is owned by Disney. There's a huge cover-up and misinformation propaganda going on all facets of every level of our culture right now, because it's not a culture revolution, but it's a color revolution. So it's affecting all facets of everything. So I think we're seeing all this propaganda now as we did in the times of the beginning, even as all text has been rewritten and things have been hidden. World War II, World War I, huge vast of things were moved back and forth across huge parts of land to confuse the masses. There's something being hidden within our own universe from us that we can expel all of this, I believe, through that oneness of imagining that grain of sand, like Mahoney said earlier, being that grain of sand, and being able to find that source of energy that we can all dial into and actually do connect. I mean, everything's connected. So it's that transformation of total beings of this planet to figure out our destiny is not what we perceive in this dimension, it's what we're going to make it. And that's the multi-dimension theory too in itself. And looking at the multi-dimension theory with Mandela effect, which the Navy pretty much came out and practically said with disclosure that is possible to cause that wrinkle in time to that in the Manhattan Project. It would be interesting to see maybe a theory could be with that technology is that we didn't have aliens, but there was that cross reference through something set in space where it was American military coming to the planet through a wrinkle in time when civilization started, and harvesting the land and creating and molding it and seeing all these flying statues or carved into the side of walls, even Indians in the island with all the big tall dudes.
Easter Island,
they have the Birdman, and there's every culture has been affected by some winged or thing that looks like something not of that world, but very modern.
So I just want to go before I go
in our generation.
Before I go to Kelly for this question, I want to reframe this with Stu. He brought up a pretty big point. I think he was alluding to this is like, how much, Stu, do you believe in? So it's a conspiracy theory or whatever that Nikola Tesla discovered a way of creating unlimited energy, free unlimited energy that everybody could have, and that I don't know where it went from that. The corporation where we wouldn't let them have it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you look at the Pentagon and the DOJ and the way they have sought out people that have invented new technologies just in the 80s and 90s, let alone back when they were really grabbing everything they could. And it's total, I believe that you can create free energy, and that is probably being suppressed, but you have to think of, is it a fear that they're trying to make you have about that type of system of free energy because of the way it arcs and works? Or Is that why they're suppressing it? Because there's a danger to that type of technology? Or is it because they just don't want us to see us evolve and not have to worry about that extra however much money to pay that energy to do whatever we want to do with our lives?
And what did you?
Well,
Yeah, go ahead, Jay Marsh.
so like, wasn't at the time like Jefferson was for like AC, like
Yes.
or like direct current, where like Tesla wanted like both ways, whatever that was at the time.
AC/DC. There was an Amazon film on there. It was pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's called the Current Wars, and it's Edison had the money behind him, and guess what? Whoever has the money always wins, and that's tale as old as fucking time, right? So
yeah.
Tesla's the genius. He ended up fucking broke in a hotel in the end of his days.
Yeah, what Edison did. I'm a history nerd, so what Edison did, he was really smart. Like basically putting someone to death by electricity. What Edison did is hey, I'll do Tesla's, and I'll do his shit and show people how dangerous it is. And he came up with the electric chair after sitting in one of his chairs at his office. And then he did that, and he showed him not only, hey, this is how you put someone to death. He also killed an elephant with that. Even though it turns out Tesla's electricity is much more safe, much more safe.
So, Kelly, your thoughts?
Oh, well, there's a shit ton there to digest, so I don't even know where to start. But I mean, I come at it from the point of view, like I said earlier, we use a fraction of our brains. So therefore, of that fraction, what do we know? That's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction. We don't know fucking shit. We're all a bunch of egocentric douchebags on this planet. Maybe the most egocentric fucks in the universe. Who knows? But we think we know everything because we got our highways, and driving across the United States, it's just made me think about a lot of stuff like this too. A lot of time to think on the road. But you got your highways, you got your Burger King, you got your nice hotel rooms, you got your hot tubs, and just people just go, oh, well, we are, the greatest species on Earth. But once a volcano hits and everything gets turned into rubble, what do we turn to? We turn to stabbing people for food. We turn to rape, unfortunately, sex and our animal instincts, very primitive things, which tells me that we are no better than a fucking, Doberman Pinscher in the backyard that's fenced in. We're no better than animals. Anyways, I don't know where I'm going down that rabbit hole. But the point of the matter is that we don't know shit about shit. So you have to turn to something bigger, which Stu hit it on the nose with the spirituality and the parallel universes and blah, 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 things that are bigger than us, which I'm sorry, most people don't even fucking think about. And that frustrates me. It's like, is it going to really kill you? Is it really going to hurt you to think about this stuff? Because it probably exists. Because you're basically a kindergartner with an eighth of a brain in your head. That's what that's the smartest. That's the smartest human beings. Elon Musk is a kindergartner with a fraction of his brain in his head. So I'm like, maybe let's think outside the box a little bit here.
Yeah, Kelly. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, people don't want to think about it that way because it's fucking scary, right? Like, if you really let your mind open up to the fact that, like, if you understand like how vast the universe is, it's fucking terrifying.
Yes,
and that's why people
it's also sorry, I was just gonna say, Mahoney, it's also, to me, it's very freeing. Like, I love to think of the biggest things that I could possibly think of, and I'm still a small still a small thinker, in all regards.
This would be a good segue to sort of talk about how, they have been using things called DMTs and ayahuasca to lift that veil themselves within their inner mind and break that veil dimension as far as exploring that part of our psyche too, and talk about how much of our mind we use and how much that is expanding. And being able to use that to talk to different dimensions and beings in different dimensions, and how that's affecting people on this planet, as far as something as simple as, they say, interesting, if you look up Zulu Nation and first fruits, it goes through their ethos in South Africa, how they did the sacrificing of a virgin and blah, blah, blah. And that was part of their culture. And there's this ghost mountain there and the whole deal. And at the very end of it, that type of ethos of there, it's a 2-word religion, but the second part of that religion begins in woke Mashua, or it's woke something. And with the Black Lives Matter thing, something as simple as chanting someone that has fallen and is dead, because you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to chant someone's dead name to bring presence of them to planet. So they're trying to use that power themselves too, in the sense of not so much of the ayahuasca and DMT, but that different dimension and how we get to those different phases through different veils.
Yeah. So who's at the bat on that one?
That's a psyche
sorry.
mindset that psyche mindset too that you were talking about, Kelly. That survival instinct. When you have nothing, but we have to have a rallying cry as Obadiahs and Christians that those are all labels that people give us, but to let people find that light in them, and it's going to be a hard battle.
So Stu, do you think
we're in?
So do you think you brought up this kind of chanting for their name? Do you think that's more heavenly and talking about someone when they're dead, or is that more like interdimensional?
Well, the way the BLM classifies it through their hierarchy is that it's an actual religion, like the woke Shua one in Zulu. So when they call upon that, they're expecting that spirit to act upon them as a group. So if you have kids on their iPods and iPads shouting that out as they're watching a rally somewhere, who knows what veil that can break or what dimensions we're allowing things to come through with even computers and different spectrums they put off, and electromagnetics that we see in all our devices.
Yeah. So I think Stu has a lot of good points there. All this stuff is so fucking interesting. You go off for hours and hours on end, which this is going to be probably a 10-hour episode, by the way.
I can't wait to get to sleep tomorrow at 5, maybe 6 in the morning.
I did want to circle back, and again, it's a original question I kind of got from Stu talking and some different ideas. And I want to pose this to Kelly because Kelly got loaded with a bunch of shit there, so he can only do so much. But I want to go back to the simulation theory. We're living in the matrix, but also this question, also Kelly, for you, is add in what Stu was talking about, the propaganda, the multimedia propaganda. Could the propaganda from the media, we're living in a simulation, right? Could the media, the propaganda, Hollywood, all be part of the simulation, trying to keep us from actually getting out, exploring the true nature of our existence?
Yes, 100%. I'm not saying that's what is happening, but 100% it could be happening. Anything could be happening. And you're talking about different dimensions, parallel universes. People that go, that doesn't exist, are fucking idiots, because I could go outside and get on a Greyhound bus right now and go to Chicago. Well, that's going to change the entire trajectory of my honeymoon. Now, what if I get on a plane and go to Japan and never talk to my wife again? What if I decide to never talk to Mahoney again? I am controlling parallel universes because every choice you make. What if I go down the grocery store and steal something? What if I go drink a bottle of vodka? What if I don't? Those are all choices that are going to change the trajectory of your life. But back to the proper. Sorry, go ahead.
What I find interesting is you're in such a different spot than all of us right now, and you're traveling across the country, one of the biggest countries on the planet. Do you feel different? Like when you left Montana, did it feel different, or is it a mindset, or I guess talk a little bit about that. You're halfway across the country compared to us right now.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, we've all been on vacations and stuff before. It's like when you come back to where we're all from, Deer Lodge, Montana, you're like, holy fuck, Deer Lodge, you could say, it's never changed, or it has changed, whatever you want. But then, we've been to South Dakota, Minnesota. We were just in St. Louis today. The weather changes, your attitude changes. It rains on you. It's hot out. You meet assholes. You meet really fucking nice people. It's just you want to talk about parallel universes? Yes, travel across the fucking United States, because you will see a different life, a different universe every single fucking day. So I don't know if that answers your question, but the short answer is yes.
What's kind of funny is, so I can talk, you've just been married. And so my wife has been with me in Deer Lodge a number of times. We've been together for almost 15 years now. But she told me, we were just out having a drink at our local brewery that we love here, Logan Brewing, if anyone wants to look it up, great beers. But she was telling me, she was like, I was so attracted to you when we were back in Deer Lodge because you were so comfortable. And it's just, I can't explain that. It's just, I'm home, I'm with my friends. It's just like, I know that's where I'm supposed to be. And you act a little bit different. So kind of to Kelly's point, when you're kind of grounded in a certain spot, you act a little bit different.
Yeah, Mahoney, you could, sorry, and I don't want to take everyone's time here, but Mahoney, you could give up everything today and go be a stand-up comedian. You know you could. You could give up everything today and go be a garbage man. You could give up everything today and go be on welfare and seek unemployment benefits. You could go cheat on your wife and be alone the rest of your life and miserable. I mean, a lot of people think, I think it's Jamar, someone's laughing, but a lot of people think that conversations like this are like, wow, how much weed did these guys smoke? But that's really not the case. Sadly, the people on this panel right now, let's say we use 5% of our brain. Well, the people on this panel right now are using 5% plus a fraction, because we are actually talking and thinking about this. What if you use 100% of your brain? I mean, you could probably like juggle planets. Who the fuck knows?
Honestly, I could jerk Pat off from here, and I'm trying to, and I'm just not using enough percent of it.
That's the 15% mark.
Yeah. Hey, I don't want to do a segue here.
Wait, I feel a tug. Is that you, Mahoney? Jesus. Come on, bud.
I don't want to do a segue.
Like I said, I'm at home in Deer Lodge.
So I've read a ton of books about manipulating female women to sleep with you, getting them in the best. Quick segue here. I'll tell you what.
Let's circle them zebras.
How many books are there on there? The fact that you've read a ton.
There's quite a few. Hey, I'm getting ready to lay some pussy in Pittsburgh, okay?
I don't doubt that. Guess what? Pittsburgh, like Tinder, Bumble, you're about to get fucking railroaded, and he's a grower, not a shower. Grower, not a shower.
I want to talk about
Hinge. I'm sure Marianne knows way more dating apps than I do, but you golden.
I want to talk briefly about speed seduction. What Molly was saying, you're comfortable in your spot or whatever, and she finds that sexy. If you can be comfortable as a fucking alien, then Stuart gets so much fucking pussy.
Is Stuart still with us, or is he like building another pyramid in Egypt?
He's actually building another pyramid in a multiverse in Egypt, right?
Yeah. Well, I want to speak to something. Kelly keeps coming back to how much of our mind we use. And that concept, it's scary to think that we've used more technology and money to figure out ways to use our own minds against us than we actually have to use to evolve our minds. Through propaganda that we've seen for people to do certain things and get a civilization to act a certain way. It's very scary to see that kind of money would be used to subvert a culture. You look back at the early days of America, they had pedos conducting experiments on little kids to see how many times they could orgasm in a day, and it became the statute of every book moving forward on sexual relations, and sexuality just exploded after the 1950s. I mean, that's where they went from conservatism all the way to full-blown, what it is now. There's no end in sight, to the point where they even have those dolls that are robotics that they can scan a face to make it look like someone that you were with your whole life, or anybody you want. Propaganda behind how we perceive ourselves is being influenced by that technology, and money being dumped into how we subvert our own minds. The biggest, mistake our education system ever made was putting the trolley problem inside the educational institutes, even down to the high school and grade school levels. The trolley problem is a huge mistake. You get people to think in a way of, okay, I'm going to sacrifice so many people to save so many others. It's putting a value on you that you should not be doing with other people's lives. It's horrible to think that way. And, you know, and it's right now through Darwinism Institute opened in 2014. If you look at the word science and spell it backwards and put that in fucking Google, that's where we are right now. We're in an inverted reality of a science, medical, government deal, and there's so much propaganda behind everything. It's ridiculous.
Yep, I agree 100% with that. Jay Marsh, what are you doing right now?
I'm trying to get laid. That's sidebar. So go to Kelly.
That's a pretty huge sidebar and super non-productive to what we're talking about.
Well, you were just stroking them off from Seattle.
Yeah, because I was talking about the multiverse, which is related. Okay.
Oh, fuck.
All right, guys.
On the multiverse
you know what?
thing, to spice up this conversation a little bit, on the multiverse thing and robot, lifting that veil and somehow capturing those entities that they figure they can cross over and putting them in an AI configuration inside robots. Now that is crazy.
Well, hey, Pat, can I just touch on one thing Stu was saying there? Because your idea, all of our idea of like the universe and infinity and space and blah, blah, blah is a little bit different. Think about the people that created nuclear weapons or, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, these guys that created this crazy technology that we're on right now. Some of it's for really good purposes. Some of it's for terrible purposes, nuclear weapons. Can you imagine if the guy that created a nuclear weapon created a rocket, like Elon Musk? What if they teamed up? We'd probably be on fucking Mars or further. Like, what if we all put our heads together? I agree, Stu, for the common good. It's just insane that you put your time and efforts into something that's so devastating to mankind, to destroy mankind. That blows my mind.
What's really crazy is if you look back at, obviously, Nevada, right? Everyone looks at Nevada as like, hey, this is like the big crazy thing. If you look back at when the crash happened, right? I did air quotes for our fans listening. The crash that happens in Roswell. If you look back and just look at human history from how far we advanced technology until Roswell, and then post-Roswell until now, the advancements in human technology from post-Roswell till now are infinite. Like, you can't even, there's not a word for it. We went from, hey, we're doing a great job, like we can send you ice to really keep your fish cold, to now we have refrigerators, we have microwaves, we have ovens, we have fucking phones that have internet on them. And that's like, we jumped so many levels in technology.
Hey, Mahoney, go back to your great grandparents and explain the internet to them. I love that.
Could you
question.
imagine?
It's
Could
like,
you
anything you want to know, anything you want to watch.
Explain how to use the internet. Go to the congressmen and women that are running our country and try to explain to them how to run the internet. They're totally clueless themselves.
I'm just saying.
We have.
I'm just saying, with how crazy that is, go back 50 years or 100 years even, explain to somebody, in 100 years, you can get on this little device right here that's, fit in the palm of your hand and literally get anything you want. Anything.
I'm not that old, and I remember looking shit up on encyclopedias for book reports. I'm 35. I'm not that fucking old.
Yeah, and while we're getting really serious, I just want to segue here. It's a super serious conversation we're having now. This is crazy because there's a time that people were against gas chambers for the Jews. Can you imagine that?
And honestly, Pat, I appreciate you really grounding us back to where we came from.
But when you talk about Roswell too, I mean, we know that Germany had that technology of anti-gravity with machines they were building that came back into the NASA program through Operation Paperclip. I mean, there were tons and tons of scientists that came out of, for some reason, unscathed out of the Nuremberg trials and ended up in the United States. So
Yeah.
the advancements that they brought with them to themselves as scientists, and they were talking about, I don't know if you know who Steve Quayle is, but he talks about the Antarctic and how there's actually underneath that sheet of ice what the Nazis were describing as a kingdom when they were talking to these people inside that structure underneath that sheet of ice. So it's very interesting technology advancement. But when you're talking about the Jews and Hitler and being gassed, I think they just went straight to the needle.
Jesus. So our next question goes to J. Mars. Did the Holocaust actually happen?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
How the fuck do you know? You're 20 years old.
J. Morris is not even legally able to drink yet he's on this podcast somehow. So I do want
to technology with rockets and nuclear weapons. That's obviously an outdated technology that we have, obviously. So with the lasers in space and space weapons, Russia and China actually just made a treaty that the United States was not in against using space weapons, lasers, and different things in space. And I think through propaganda that we've seen, we're going to see the United States move into a mode where they're actually going to use the excuse of alien invasion to get more funding for space weapons. Because it's like with everything that they do, they have to have the attack to justify the means for trillions of dollars. It's in every instance of United States history.
Well, yeah. And wait, I'll cut everybody off. Watch the fucking movie Swordfish out there. You know exactly what he's fucking talking about. All right, go ahead.
Halle Berry, baby.
Yeah, all I remember about that is Halle Berry's tits.
Jesus. Well, he's not
That's hard to forget. But I will say, sorry, I had a great point and then Halle Berry's tits came. No, here we go. What was kind of like everyone talks about, hey, I'm not sure. Well, if people fully understand, the guy from Blink 182 was like super into aliens, and everyone was like, hey, this guy's fucking crazy. And guess what? During the pandemic, they went ahead and showed us, hey, this is a video from the US Navy of a UFO. And it went like basically fucking unnoticed. We were so busy in our own pandemic and who we're going to vote for on this side or that side. They showed us UFOs fucking existed and we didn't do anything. We didn't fucking do anything.
I want to reroute back to one of Stu's points there with on Nazi Germany. I'm sure Mahoney likes to go this route, but I do want. In all seriousness, the atrocities in World War II in Nazi Germany, they were so fucking atrocious that the United States hired the majority of people that committed those atrocities for our science team. Pretty much.
And we landed on the moon. What a shit.
Hey, I don't want to round up all the penguins here, but I am on my 4th of 6 drinks, so if we can hurry this up.
Hey, I'm on my 3rd of 6, and I have an unlimited supply.
Me and Jay are about to blackout, so we got to wrap this thing up.
But I really do think they proved to us UFOs exist, and we all were just kind of like, oh, well, what about Trump and what about Twitter? And we were just like, they went ahead and showed us hey, here's a peek under the curtain, and we were just like, well, but seriously, because masks. What the fuck?
Oh, but that's why we're on a fucking simulation. It's the Matrix, and they just want to keep our eyes off the actual reality of what's happening because it's a distraction. The entire thing, the propaganda, like Stu was talking about, it's all one big fucking distraction for trying to realize our real, actual existence. Right?
Yeah. Well, Pat, let me chime in. as I say every episode, I'm a fucking fundamentalist. We know human beings, we know human nature. So if you're asking the question, well, would the media lie to us? Would the elites lie to us? Would anybody lie to us? Do your friends lie to you? Do your fucking family members, the closest people in your life, lie to you and fabricate shit? If the answer is yes, which it is for everyone, then yes, they're fucking lying to you, you fucking idiots.
God
Thank
damn.
you. I appreciate that.
Well, Mahoney, you said once, most people are pieces of shit. So who knows what they're lying about? Who knows what they're covering up? But I guarantee it's something, and probably a lot of things, that we don't need to know for whatever reason.
It sucks that the older you get, the more you realize that. But outside, you can have a small circle of friends, which most of them are here on this podcast with me. And outside of that, even if it's people I work with who hopefully they're not watching this, if they are, hopefully it's years from now when we're multimillionaires. I don't fucking trust you. I don't. If you tell me something, I'm gonna assume that you're fucking lying to me or you're doing something for your own good. And that's that.
That's pathetic. Yeah, it's so fucking pathetic out there. What do you think about everything you said this last 2.5 minutes, Stu?
Roswell. Just joking.
Back to Roswell there was Stu.
Well, I think Mahoney walked away earlier when we were talking about the advancements in technology, but how we realize that nuclear weapons, are not modern weapons that we obviously have. I mean, the modern weapon warfare right now is obviously biological warfare, but back in Roswell, they hadn't mastered to be able to use electromagnetic pulses to bring down those types of aircraft, which is very interesting to think about even back then, to know that they were out there. There's supposed to be a disclosure in June of what the military, quote unquote, has. But it's interesting too, if you dig around enough, you can find people that have been interested in this in a long time, and they do talk to people that have been a part of, even on C-SPAN, they'll have videos of people that know people that have been part of deep, dark, black projects, to the point they even have pictures of certain patches of insignias that each team had. They swear secrecy not to talk about these things. So if we were at the point back then in the 50s to shoot them down from Earth, to the point, we can now use lasers to pinpoint the top of a nuclear warhead to make it explode before it, when it's in the stratosphere at a certain point, or use those lasers in space out farther to disrupt space or against other entities in space as far as man-made stuff, or direct those weapons back to Earth. It came out that China, full disclosure, is using weather modification technologies to alter their 5.5 million acres of test land in Asia to see what they can do with different technologies. So we're living in a very interesting time of being part of the ant.
Yeah.
There are men on Earth pretending they are God and using generations of wealth and ideas and plans, and they're all being carried out at once, but the foot doesn't know what the hand is doing because they're not talking to each other. So it's all a free-for-all on all of its ants.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out here for our audience at home, Stu is surrounded by Captain America. Is Captain America an alien in your perspective? Or what is Captain America for you?
It's like the Chinese super soldier program they announced in China. They've been using that mRNA gene therapy and different things to superize their soldiers over there. Something else that, I don't know, Steve Quill talks about. He talks about a lot of different stuff, but that's one of them. He's actually written a lot of books on that subject in itself. So that Captain America, he was a product of the first super soldier.
Yeah. I want to go a segue really quick. Talking about Captain America and everything. Mahoney, what's the segue we're gonna do here?
Honestly, I was quite curious to see how you'd segue from Captain America to us. What I'll say, Stu brings up a really good point. Is you go from the, the atomic age when we bombed Nagasaki, right? And that's, you know, late 40s, early 50s. And I'll like, if you look at American industry and American technology before that, like, how in the fuck did we come up with that?
Yeah.
Like, the best we had was Carnegie and the steel industry in Pittsburgh. And then all of a sudden we got a guy who can blow up an entire city. Like, the dots don't connect for me.
No.
You know what I mean? So I think that's the most interesting thing.
Mahoney, I want to make 2 points back to driving across the nation, which we've all done, or we've all driven long distances. What I've noticed is the fallacy about a lack of food and water and resources on this earth. There is so much fucking just open land, open horseshit. And the United States could be swallowed by any one of the oceans at any moment, swallowed completely, just obliterated. So don't tell me there's not enough food for this world to survive. Not just 7 billion people, but probably double, triple. Who knows? Fucking billions of people can survive on this earth. Might be unlimited. It is so ridiculous about the resources on this earth. Anyways, that was just a random thought driving across the nation. But also conspiracy theories. Look, we can all make up a conspiracy theory off the top of our heads, and go down that rabbit hole and talk about it probably for hours on end. Any conspiracy theory, whether it's already out there or we're just fabricating it. But to me, if you can come up with it off the top of your head, there's some truth to it, whether it's actually happening on this earth or somewhere else in the universe. It's 100,000% true, whatever you can think of. Again, remember, we only use 5% of our brains. So if you can come up with any conspiracy theory, it's probably true. And I guess there's so many different topics, things we could talk about. The one that I kept thinking about just looking at the side of the road driving is how we can't see the smallest things on Earth in our existence, with microscopes and things like that. We can't see it. We can see the inside of an atom, blah, 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 but it just keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And we also can't see the biggest things out there in the universe, out there in the sky. We can't see them. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So yes, we are a grain of sand on a vast, endless beach, but we are also the biggest thing in the universe, if that makes any sense. It's parallel on both sides. The spectrum is in the middle because this is our existence. And no, I did not smoke weed tonight. That's just what I thought about on a 9-hour car ride.
What I'll agree with Kelly is I haven't been like on a big car ride across America like him, but I've been to a bunch of different states on plane. And the thing that I always
not the same thing.
Thank you, Don Jr. What I think of is you don't know what you don't know, right? Like, I was recently in Texas and I expected it to be a fucking desert down there. And guess what? There's a beautiful oasis with trees and green lawns. And I thought, hey, I'm going down south, down by the border. It's going to be, and I was wrong. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, you know what? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just think that's a bias we all run into is we just think, hey, you know what? Like, I'm from this place in the world and I have a good idea about the rest of the place in the world because I've seen something on TV or I've read something. You don't know what you fucking don't know. That's the most human thing in the world.
I just want to add on.
We don't know shit. None of us know shit.
I just want to add on there. Yeah, Mahoney, you come up to Alaska and you see photographs and you're like, oh, Alaska's so pretty. You live where I live and there is zero fucking green grass. There's nothing. It's just tundra and everything else. It's crazy. So I want to segue to what I really wanted to segue here earlier is that there's a conspiracy out there, and this is going to go to Stu eventually, see what you think about this. There is the best conspiracy, in my opinion, the best conspiracy I've ever seen in my life. It's called Kubrick's Odyssey. You guys should all check it out, Kubrick's Odyssey. And it connects Stanley Kubrick to faking the moon landings, and it is so fucking good. Not saying it's true or not, and it's only about the first moon landing. It's not about all the moon landings, but it was it was based on the fact that the United States was in a space race with Russia. So the United States just said eventually at one point, fuck it, we're going to fake we're landing on the moon before they did. So after that film was made, just saying, if you wrote about a conspiracy, it's not going to say that we never landed on the moon. It's just saying the first moon landing we just faked just to beat fucking Russia to it. But anyways, it's called Kubrick's Odyssey, and it's so fucking good. Stu, have you seen any of that? The first moon landing being fake. What do you think about that?
I haven't seen that specific documentary. There's always a talk about it in the way the flag doesn't wave, and different aspects you can pick apart of the moon landing. But if you go deeper into it, if you read the Book of Enoch and you look at the Antarctic as an actual shelf around the entire Earth, and not a flat Earth, but a hemispheric Earth, above, so below.
Just to cut you off for 2 seconds here. If people don't understand what the Book of Enoch is, there are the series called Banned Books from the Bible, and one of the banned books is the Book of Enoch. Is that what you're talking about? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's one of the many that they, archaeology, as we move forward and discover different things. There's that one in Adam and Eve, but you talk about that's more of where the flat Earth conversation really jumped back into things, is because it's laid out in a way, and our distance from the moon, and, different relative to here we are on Earth. So the moon actually being something that's man-made. I mean, you could, the environment of the Matrix that has been created, that sort of conversation. You don't know what you don't know. You've never been to the moon yourself and picked up dust and let go of it.
Oh yeah, totally. So kind of like the dust on Stanley Kubrick's moon setting set.
Yeah, or the hanging in Wizard of Oz.
So Mahoney, did Nazi Germany actually happen?
1,000,000%. Yes. I've been to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. I would recommend everyone go there in case you're so arrogant enough to think that somehow it didn't happen. I can't imagine a world that you're in that you didn't think Hitler didn't mercilessly kill millions of innocent people. And yes, we landed on the moon. Stanley Kubrick, brilliant director, but he's not that fucking good.
Whoa, what do you think?
However many people want to suck off Stanley Kubrick, he couldn't fucking fake the moon landing because he could barely win a fucking Oscar. So as much as people want to think it's like, oh my gosh, and they actually have like fucking video camera footage. Like now, you could go search fucking Google and be like,
from a Hollywood studio.
Can I see the yes from the Hollywood
yeah,
studio?
right. The Mars rovers are out in Nevada somewhere.
Exactly. Honestly, they're out in Nevada in the multiverse.
Jesus Christ, he's just bashing every theory at once.
But
Mahoney, we've had good conversations about this around the campfire up at Junior Buzzards. Honestly, I just want to ask you one question though. Could it have been faked? Like if they wanted to, could it have been faked? Is that a potentiality in your brain after talking about how everything's potential in this world?
Everything's potential in this world. And could it have been faked? Yes. What you have to think about is you go back all those years, there's tens of thousands of people that would have had to take it to their grave that was fake. Whether it's news people, whether it's all the people that worked at all the different NASA space centers, like that's the only thing that gives me pause, is because as people, we're kind of shitty, as I mentioned podcasts ago. And if someone paid me a bunch of money to go on Oprah as a 75-year-old and be like, yeah, you know what? NASA told me to say this wasn't
okay. Just
how many people would have had to say that was, you know what, this is true, and we beat Russia because America's the best.
Okay, and
Thousands, tens of thousands. And whatever Pat's going to say is fucking bullshit.
I'm going to say this is what I'm doing a counterpoint here really quick. Just shut the fuck up.
Whatever Pat's going to say is fucking fake. Hey, guess what, Pat? This is what it feels like to fucking be on the other side of Trump. Your shit's bullshit. You're fucking fake. Whatever Pat says is fucking dumb as shit, and it's not real.
What about the?
This is how it feels, Pat. This is how it feels.
Okay, thank you. So to clarify, so my point was that the Nuremberg trials never happened. Thank you for clarifying that. Because you had SS officers come up there, the Nuremberg trials, and they said it didn't fucking happen. So fuck you.
If the hill you want to die on is that fucking the Holocaust never happened, be my fucking guest. Go ahead.
Hey, speaking of the Holocaust, did J Marsh die in a gas chamber? Where is he?
Is he dying over there? J Marsh.
Is J Marsh still here?
I'm calling from J Marsh, please.
No, he's part of the flat Earth theory.
No, he's blowing his Russian friend.
Okay, all right. Let me hold on. Let me say something about conspiracy theories, though, since I knew this podcast would go down 800 rabbit holes. Let's just keep digging this fucking hole. My question, though, about conspiracy theories, I don't think they're all true. I just find them fascinating, like the what ifs. I mean, isn't that what the human mind is meant to do? Like, well, what if, how, when, where, why? Asking all those questions. My question is, why the fuck though would someone just make up a conspiracy theory, depending on how ridiculous it is? Like, why would someone just do that for I know you're gonna say for attention and everything, but God, that sounds like a lot of fucking time and work and effort that makes it look really like the moon landing, Pat. It makes it look like
I'm gonna side with Mahoney on this, and he can take it up after me. A lot of people like me hate fucking losing, so just say whatever you want that you won.
True.
My two biggest things to conspiracies. One is and I'll say, like, for the people like who are listening and like, hey, like, what, you disagree with it. Like, my favorite part of my friendship of Kelly and Pat is they make me think different than I would. I'm honest to Christ. Like, if you don't have friends that make you think a little bit different, if you have friends that are just like, hey, I think exactly the same way you do, or like,
yeah,
hey,
like this.
It's fucking boring. And like, they had I not been friends with them, like, maybe I'm, like I said, I'm a history nerd and I like to delve deep into this, so maybe I wouldn't, like, had I not been friends with them, maybe I wouldn't have as much to say about this current alien conversation. Maybe I would. Who fucking knows? But I like my friendship with them. And second, people come up with conspiracy theories because the shit, when we come up with things like that we've never experienced, it's easier to come up with a fake theory about why it happened other than the real truth of, like, life's just fucking shitty.
Right, but will you
people
admit?
Don't want to fucking deal with that.
Will you admit, though, that not 100% of conspiracy theories are false? Some of them have actually been proven to be true, and sometimes that unfolds 50 years later, and then they go, "Oh yeah, no, they were right. JFK dying, that's actually how it happened." I mean, not all of them are false. I just think it's fun to think of both sides of the coin, and I'm not even saying I believe either side of the coin. I want to believe that the moon landing happened, and I also want to believe that it didn't happen. I just want to find the truth, which is really fucking hard in this day and age.
And I don't disagree. I don't disagree that we'll never know the truth. That's the age we live in now, at the age that we are now, in our mid-30s, we're in the 2020s. We'll never fucking know the truth. That's reality. And so we can we're probably the generation that will live on the line more than any other of like, what is this real or is this not real, or is like information I'm getting truth or not truth? And so I always go back to how many people would have to lie about this.
Right.
That's what I go back to, because guess what? You and I both know the more people you know, the fucking shittier they are. And if there was one person that was involved in some sort of conspiracy theory years ago, they would have fucking given you the truth. They would have.
Right. Well, they say the truth will set you free, and that's why I'm always seeking it. If something doesn't make sense to me with our friendship, with my relationship with my parents, with anybody, if something doesn't make sense, I'm constantly questioning, like, what the fuck is actually going on? I don't care if it's, I'm not saying the Holocaust didn't happen. I truly do believe that happened, but I'm just saying with anything, I'm like, did it happen? And did it happen the way they tell you, or how did it happen? Because that fascinates me. Like, what actually happened? Just sit down with me, have a beer, and tell me what happened, because I'm fascinated.
The more people that have to lie and tell the same lie, that's how you know it's not real, right? Like,
right.
Yeah.
the more people that have to tell the same truth, that's how I know it's real. And it's a shitty way to have to decipher it, but we live in a fucking shitty time.
Mm-hmm.
Once you start telling that lie, you just got to keep telling a bigger and bigger and bigger lie to keep covering up the first lie.
And that's honestly how you figure it out, because you're much like a detective, right? We're not all a bunch of fucking Sherlock Holmes, but if you stick to the original lie and then you ask them the same question over and over again, and all of a sudden it becomes more and more grandiose, like, no, Neil Armstrong he fucked Buzz Aldrin doggy style on the moon, right? Like, the story, the more it becomes ridiculous.
Something as modern as
all right,
just the mask thing.
I'm officially
I have
out
a
here.
study from back in
take my fucking
2011
Hey,
saying
one at a time. Go ahead, Stu. You're the guest, my friend. Stewie?
Stu left. He's tired of our shit.
Buzz Aldrin getting doggy styled on the moon. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, that lie of having something you guys should look up is the global health security agenda. The 66 countries, the lie of, the study in 2011 by Fauci about masks giving you pneumonia, and that's where they think a lot of the deaths came from during the Spanish flu, to him stating, beginning, maybe you could debate to the middle of the pandemic, saying we don't need to wear masks. When Biden got, doubling down when Biden got in office and said, no, you have to wear 2 masks now, to where that lie is, they're just going to keep on building on that lie of that they started, because they were against it in the beginning. The truth was the beginning, and they kept changing it and changing it and changing it. And it's whatever now.
Everybody's got a price, right, Stu? Everybody's got a price.
Yes, Mahoney, exactly. Look, we are right here, right? What makes you think that you can think like, or lie like, or fabricate like someone that's up here? We talk about money all the time. We can't wrap our heads around $1 million. We can't wrap our heads around $1 billion. How about $1 trillion, or how about even more than that? The amount of money involved. If someone's like, again, I'm just spitballing for shits and giggles here, but if somebody says, hey, here's $1 billion, which is absolutely nothing when compared next to $1 trillion, it's like me giving you $5 fucking bucks or something, saying, hey, Stu, here's $1 billion. You have nothing to worry about the rest of your life. Just fucking disappear on this island and never talk about Epstein again, never talk about the moon landing again, never talk about the Vegas shooting again, whatever it might be. I understand. I 100% understand. 1,000 people or 10,000 people, or let alone 1 million people, is very hard to us. Like, how do you hush all these people? But here's the thing: not everybody is hushed. If there's a different side of the coin, why are we not talking about that or looking at it? It's just interesting to me, is all. Money controls the world. Money controls our existence right now.
And to Kelly's point, you just need to have more people that have one opinion than the other, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's
But whose opinion actually matters though about the moon landing? I mean, how many opinions actually mattered with that thing? The astronauts that went up there, the people that blasted them off, the government officials. The public's opinion doesn't matter at fucking all because we don't really know shit. We don't know anything behind the curtain for the most part.
Yeah.
Now, and that's like, in fairness to all the conspiracy arguments, it was a different time. It was a time in which people fully believed the media, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
we're only now at, what are we, barely at 2021, where people are finally like, you know what, the media kind of fucking sucks, right? And that took us, we're what, 50, 60 years later almost. So and again, that's where being your friend has made me see, like, you have to, like, don't just be a closed-minded prick, like, listen to other people.
Yeah. So what I want to say here is we're gonna segue to our prison segment. We always go to prison. So I'm gonna go to the Stu this time for our prison segment. Stu, a serious question here: are we as human beings on planet Earth being imprisoned by aliens?
Well, the question that raises has many factors to it. Could you repeat that again? I had a weird look from my wife there.
Oh, okay.
After that statement.
That's not
half a marriage, Stu.
Yes, for pretty much everybody on here, but Jay Marsh, who's never been laid because he's 5 years old. No. I'm just messing with you because I know I can. I just mess with him because I know I can, folks. He's just not. He's incoherent at this point. So, anyways, Stu, my question was, we always do a segue to prisons on the show. Do you think the human race and like planet Earth, in some sense, is being imprisoned by aliens?
Enslaved by aliens? I think that comes down to a spiritual choice of being a servant or a slave. You can serve a higher power or take a knee to be a subservient to something.
All right. Yeah.
On an alien context, it's getting very close to that point. I think it's very possible where you're being tracked by everything. You're willingly putting on a watch that tracks your biometrics.
Jesus Christ, Kelly, settle it down. You're hitting everything there.
To the point now that the Navy disclosed that they have that substance they can inject into you to monitor your vitals real time inside your body. So if they're able to monitor what they're doing on the other end of that, whoever's on the other end of that, could they modify that and change that to an output instead of a read? Could they make your body biochemistry do something to make you behave?
Yeah. So I would say, time out, Kelly, just so you know, for some reason, your headphones are also your mic. So every time you move your fucking head, it's just like.
Oh, sorry.
He's not wrong.
Tell me. Good now?
Yeah, honestly, what you're doing right now couldn't be fucking louder than anything in
the Am I good now, though? Not touching it?
Yeah, you're good now. So,
okay.
Stu,
just don't touch it.
Next question, though, for Stu is...
I think it was Buzz Aldrin touching my headphones.
Doggy style?
Hey, Stu, is a serious question. Jesus Christ almighty. Settle it down back there. It sounds bad. Sorry. It sounds bad. Anyways, Stu, is Joe Biden alien?
Alien, no. Robotic, yes. Who knows? At this point, that guy is a walking ghoul. He could be multiple. He's living a multiverse within his own multiverse. Who knows with that guy?
Yeah. So let's go
Stu,
there.
This is gonna be a weird question, and I'd like you to bear with me on this. Like you're gonna have to really bear with me on this. Do you think you've ever had sex with an alien?
Yeah, probably been raped a few times interdimensionally by aliens. I would imagine.
I got a serious question from Mahoney. Mahoney, how do you feel in a couple of years where your wife, Lois Lane, is working very fucking hard off her ass, and you basically get together once a week with us and make $10,000 a month? How do you feel about that?
Honest to God, it's my dream. Like, if all I have to do is get together once a week with the people on this panel, and my wife can make a bunch of money just doing whatever she's doing, that would mean that all the hard work I did while she was going to school was worth it, and I can live wherever I want, and I'll live on the Blackfoot River just outside of Missoula, and I'll be in a spot where not a single fucking person can bother me, and it'll be.
Is J Marsh really dead though? What the fuck's going on here?
J Marsh, please comment.
I'm never. I'm here, so I'm not dead, but I'm close to being dead.
So J Marsh, I know your friend's Russian. How much do you wish that Russia landed on the moon first?
You have no idea, because I could be this close to being like dead. Like, you haven't experienced this. That's probably like, I don't know, 10 years ago, Mahoney, but dead.
Well, it's funny if you say that, because like I've been involved in some pretty weird shit out here. But yeah, no, anything Russian's like pretty fucked up. So I don't do that. That's actually, we could do a whole nother podcast on the fact that I went to a Russian mafia guy's house for New Year's Eve. Like this isn't a story. This is very legitimate. We went to a friend's house from Carroll, and he was dating a girl whose dad was Russian. And we were like, hey, that's cool. And we go down to this house right next to Bill Gates' house on New Year's Eve. And we're like, oh, that's neat. He must have like invested well. His dad was the head of the fucking Russian mob for the entire West Coast. The entire fucking West Coast. And this is New Year's Eve. He's serving filet mignons, and we walk in there and every single person has a fucking gun strapped to their nipple. And here I am, me and my dumb wife from fucking Great Falls in Deer Lodge, Montana, like, oh yeah, no, so we fit in here, right? Like, one, I hate Russians, like 1,000,000,000%. And and I'm like, oh, so yeah, this is cool. This is like, we make sense here. Anyway,
I'm sorry. That's
another podcast.
That's a very good story. Kelly, your fucking mic is getting worse and fucking worse by the second.
All right, listen. I'm gonna unplug it and I'll just mute unless I'm talking, okay?
All right,
okay. Let's
no, sorry, okay, y'all.
Does this mic sound better now on this end?
Oh God. I got the whole entire Mahoney story is Kelly sound like he's shitting his brains out on the couch.
And honestly, that's how I felt when I walked into that Russian guy's house.
This is actually the toilet in this hotel room. The hotel room cost $100. The toilet cost another $100. So very comfortable.
Yeah. So Mahogany has Russian stories. I actually pretty much lived in fucking Russia for 10 years straight. And J Marsh is what the fuck?
As far as we know, J Marsh is getting just deep dicked by his Russian friend out there. And I mean that honestly in the most like pure, all the pronouns you could want way. Like he's taking a dick consensually.
Yeah. Oh God. So for our audience out here tonight, and not only our audience, but everybody's watching this right now because everybody's from a different place besides me and J Marsh. He brought over a bottle of Pink Whitney, which is sponsored by Barstool Sports. It's 30% alcohol.
That'll get you drunk, folks.
Put on ice. So me and J Marsh are in the process of finishing 2 bottles of that right as we speak. So
2?
Yes, we're splitting 2 bottles.
The fact that you're both still upright at this point is a miracle.
And I drank some wine before that. He drank a few beers for that. So the fact that we're still going now is insane. I still have a huge ass cup because fuck. This episode's fucked before it started.
And honestly,
Mahoney, It doesn't actually look like J Marsh is upright. So
Yeah.
there's your argument against conspiracy theories. You don't know what you're talking about. Going back on mute.
Honestly, you're not wrong. And to all our fans listening, like, we're just having a good time. We're not here to offend anybody. It's 2021. I'm sorry if we didn't use the right words. I'm sorry if I said anything that was wrong. Jay Marsh hasn't been on screen in the last 45 minutes. So this podcast might not even count. You know what I mean?
Like, this is fucking stupid. God, okay, this is fucking stupid. He can't even stand up straight. But I like the Russian contact because we're drinking basically a Russian fucking liquor here.
Hey, shoot it to Stu. He can talk for a half an hour to finish this puppy out.
All right, Stu, what are you talking about at this point? Go ahead, your last words here before we all kill ourselves.
Oh, well, I liked how we were talking about old technologies, and Tesla and that facet of propelling America forward where we are today. And it's interesting to look back at a lot of old film and video and see technologies that, a black phone in a lady's hand as part of a prop, or, certain different pictures captured throughout time of different things that looked like they shouldn't be there, that looked like they should be modern now or even more modern than we could think of. In the book Endgame and a lot of, science fiction stuff, they write about stuff that technology is here now. In Ender's Game by Orson Scott, they actually had it set up to where the military had an implant inside their molar for their microphone, and then an insert inside their ear for their receiver. So their phone was like hardwired, built into them. And if we look at Elon Musk now with the brain chip and how we're sort of fast forwarding to try to hook tech up the people and the Google glasses and completely wire you in, it's sort of fascinating to think where people might want to strive to go as far as technology and cyborg type scenarios. We've seen it in sci-fi, and it can't be that too far off if we're seeing super soldiers in China. So it'll be interesting what the next 5 years has for us in general. The scary thing is that, Kelly talking about money and billions and trillions of dollars. If you look at the World Economic Outlook right now, we're already above 230% of our spending GPD globally, which is very, very frightening. And it's not going to be so much as a lack of resources. It's the people playing God. Bill Gates buying up so much farmland in the United States, and it'll be interesting to see what he does with that farmland. Hopefully he does go the pro and produce, tons of food for people across the world. But if you look at China with weather altercation weapons, they're intentionally flooding parts of their country to create a drought, to actually try to starve people. And going back to UNICEF and the UN, Hunter Biden got an award from the UNICEF part of program that is the food distribution part of that. And you look right now globally, any newspaper or you put in a Google search or whatever search, you look at starvation, it is up exponentially across the world right now. Instead of on average maybe 5 million people dying of starvation and malnutrition, you're looking at 25 million people right now already this year. So things are racing exponentially out of pace. And so getting back to, aliens, the scenario of having to have some kind of intervention from either it being a staged thing from inside, or we evolved somehow enough to make contact with, back to the book of Enoch and the fallen angels, a different type of angel that isn't fallen and cast away from God, but is here more to help and bind what evil entities are out there. The Bible is an interesting thing to read at different times of your life, because you can interpret different things inside of it different. But definitely looking back at, the Sumerians and what you were talking about too, Patrick, about Ancient Alien Astronauts, that whole program series they have on YouTube, digging into some of that, what they have to say about creation, what they found. It'll be interesting in the next couple of years exactly what is released to the population as far as their discoveries. Even in Egypt, in the amount of tombs, the dead shall rise. I mean, the amount of tombs they have uncovered just in the last year and a half is astounding. They had a huge parade there just beginning of this year, made a big hoopla out of how much they're actually discovering so far into humanity's, what we thought was nothing is something so huge out in that desert.
Yeah. So Stu, one of the things you talked a lot about the Bible and stuff, and these are one of the things I want to talk to you about tonight is you go back in the Bible, and this is one of the biggest freaking points in the Bible. And they're like, okay, Jesus got crucified because he's claimed to be the savior. Well, my point is, to a certain extent, is like, okay, watch the actual Bible verses. Guess what? Jesus is fine. And then suddenly he started messing with the money in the temple. And then that's where shit went crazy. What do you think about that?
Well, that's that spirit, that Hamashiach, standing up for what is right, doing the truth and just, and knowing historically and factually what different places and institutions should stand for. And if even modern day, if they're not standing for that, the people inside those institutions need to be flipping tables. I mean, and that's a hard thing for people to have the courage to stand up to a corporation, because the biggest mistake right now, the United States government, is that we define corporations as people. So it's no longer the people's voice being megaphoned at governments, and asking for money. It's the institutions and the corporations, and we've sort of lost our voice. And that's sort of, I think, where the Roman Empire was back then in the times of Hamashiach Christ as well, is that everyone knew that it was wrong. What was going on was wrong. And it takes only one act of bravery to be etched in stone forever. We are pre-programmed to think, not only the story of Jesus, that it was one person, but also even Captain America, all these superhero movies, we think of a savior, someone coming to save us, and it needs to be one person that stands up. But it's not. It's all of us that need to have that drive across the multiverse, standing up and being that grain of sand and seeing it expand to the collective to take that stand, to do the just and right and tell the truth.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to go to Kelly here really soon, but I just want to clarify, is like, you read the Bible, and if you actually read the Bible verbatim, logically and rationally, Jesus had absolutely no problems whatsoever. He spread his message. He was great. He's a great guy and everything. You watch the Bible, watch the actual Bible. And I watched Bill O'Reilly's breakdown of the Bible. He just broke down as an objective person or whatever. Jesus has absolutely no freaking problems whatsoever. Then he fucks with the money and everything goes fucking sideways instantly. Kelly, what do you think about that?
Yeah, 100%. Anybody that stands up for not just what's right, but what might be different or what goes against the grain is going to get a backlash. That's why we talk about how funny it is with COVID and everything, not to bring it up, but how everyone getting the vaccine, wearing masks and stuff, and they act like they're being brave. To each his own, but you're not being brave. You're doing what the majority is fucking doing. So that's not courage. That's not being brave at all. That's doing what the majority is doing, whether it's right or wrong. Not going to get into that. It's just you're not being an individual there. You're doing what the majority is doing. I had another point on Stu's comments there. It's escaping me now, but I just wanted to give a shout out to Jordan Peterson. And if you haven't listened to Jordan Peterson, please do. He is a phenomenal speaker on all kinds of topics. Some people think that all he does is stand up for men, and maybe even just the white man, but that's not the case. Like, he's one of the only voices that demographic has at this point, and a very strong and intelligent voice for that matter. But Jordan Peterson, said something about 2 weeks ago or something. I was listening to one of his speeches, and he said, it just takes one person in a family tree or in a group of individuals throughout history to recalibrate, to reinvent themselves, to repent, to say, I'm done with this fucking family. I'm not doing meth anymore. I'm not doing drugs anymore. I'm not going to be an alcoholic anymore. I'm not going to cheat on my wife anymore. It takes one leader in that entire family tree to have kids to completely reinvent a new generation of amazing, great people, moral people that are doing the right thing. So who's going to be that person? Are you that person in your life, or is that going to be your kids, or is that your dad? Who is that? Hopefully it's all of us here, because your actions today are going to reflect for hundreds of years in the future. Hopefully,
I'll say, because it's only three of us now, because more they all passed out so far. Just three of us left here, so I'm gonna weak men create shitty times, strong men create great times. That's a great book by whatever the fuck his face is. But I think we're really leading to
it was John Stamos. Was it John Stamos?
John Stamos. Thank you.
Yeah.
Schreiman, actually, you answered your. Never mind.
Oh, sorry. I had to pee, Pat, because you usually pee for fucking half the episode. So sorry, I got to pee twice in this one.
But I just want to go back. Well, you have weak men try and take over, and they're not going to take over because they're abolished or whatever. But the craziest thing though is direct respect to Mahoney or Stu. You hear these so-called terrible mythological recession. Everybody gonna start that. You're all fucking screwed. You do this, you do that. Do you have any idea that we're rich? We're living in the richest country in the richest time in history. Plus, by 2050, they're analyzing and saying, because of technology advancements, we're so rich because of technology, we're going to be 4 to 5 times richer in 2050. So what fuck? Talk about that, Stu.
Yeah, but when you talk about that wealth that's coming from corporations and manufacturing, IBM just released a whole new chip today that's going to revolutionize computers as far as I'm concerned. And so with the COVID deal, like Schwab said, they're going to integrate more robotics inside of manufacturing. So that wealth is going to be created, but you're taking that wealth away from blue collar workers, which this nation is built on. I mean, that money comes from somewhere, from taxes, from people, the way it's set up right now. And so it's going to be very scary to see people trying to come back to work, or where that evolves into being more of a one robotics maintenance person on a certain section of a warehouse factory rather than having 20 people working in that area. So it's going to be interesting to see how that wealth transfers over, especially when most of that wealth is so tied up in global vaccines that it's ridiculous. Just the 21st of January, the WHO announced that they have a global vaccine for Ebola outbreaks now. So it'd be interesting to see in the next couple of years how that rollout works as well, as far as the big pharma medical industry and different bio and tech products that is going to be an array across the line now. It's not going to be traditional holistic like we like it to be. It's not going to be the modern day medicine that we're used to. It's a whole new breed of health medical services that we're entering into. If it, so it's going to be interesting to see how that wealth actually plays out, if we're actually paying for it, or if it's, something as simple as a crypto thing. You play a game where you post a video, you do certain entertainment things to create certain crypto-based monies. One big crypto that's on its way out right now is, which is very scary, is LDO or LCDO. So that is actually a crypto based on a carbon unit. So you have so much carbon, and this is going to be a huge thing coming up within the end of this year, I think, is the climate action crisis. They're going to try ramming you into this crypto to pay for your carbon footprint. With the language that John Kerry is using right now, as far as climate action, climate crisis, what they're prepared to do and what levels they're willing to take it, I would foresee maybe not my grandchildren, but my great grandchildren needing to actually pay for the carbon footprint they leave on this planet. So,
Hey, Stewie,
very
what
wealth driven.
Can I just make one comment on there too? We're talking about a cashless society and stuff, which I thought was all frivolous and bullshit. A little bit. We live in Montana, so we're kind of out of the loop for most states, but we've gone to 3 different ballparks in a multitude of different states here, and they don't accept cash almost fucking anywhere, and it's scary. Like, I thought it was just Minneapolis, the Twins target field. Like, yeah, no cash because of the pandemic, quote unquote. But they don't accept cash in any of these fucking stadiums. And maybe Mahogany can comment on that too. I don't know if it's the same out there where he is, but that, again, maybe it's like we're freaking out a little bit, but that's just like, really, holy shit. And sometimes they don't even accept a fucking debit card. Like, we almost had to drive my Jeep to Miami and figure that out down there because they wouldn't accept a debit card. And you need $2,000 to rent a car to drive across the nation. And it has to be a credit card. I mean, does everybody have a $2,000 limit on their credit cards? I want to say most people don't.
I mean, I can say on my end, it's, from where I'm at on this side of the country, everything is cashless, but it's debit or credit. It's not like if you have a debit card, you won't be allowed to buy something. And even really on the, like, for the most part, if all you have is cash, if you wanted to buy a hot dog or a popcorn and all you had was $10, they'll still take your money. You know what I mean? It's not like the end of the world. The whole COVID thing of like, hey, I can't take your cash because it's coming from you to me. And like, that's still very much a thing out here. But if all you have is cash, it's not like they won't take your money, I guess is the best way I can describe it.
And it's scary to think too, as far as microchips, having that a lot of corporations going to be able to access certain things with the microchip. I mean, if your banking account is on you, I mean, if it's in the form of a chip instead of in your phone, which if it's in your phone, it's on a chip anyway, you have an encrypted wallet in your phone that you have access to for crypto. But even if you look at the timeline history of money, I mean, going from shells and, certain places using precious metals and to the dollar to where we are with credit and debit card, that's a transaction that is essentially an XTR type of generating wealth in itself. That transaction occurring is in some way creating a wealth somewhere too. So it's not too far off base that in 10 years from now, of course, there's still going to be cash. There's always going to be a black market, but you're not going to write a check.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. I think liquid wealth, as we know it, in terms of like actual cash and coin, is gone a lot. And you can look to Bitcoin. I mean, we could get as deep as we wanted. Like, I think liquid cash is going to be, the people who actually have liquid cash are like seen as grandparents, right? Like, if I have someone who's got $110 in liquid cash that wants to come out to a ball game, they're like, oh wow, why haven't you converted that into a gift card, or why haven't you converted that into some sort of debit card?
Yeah, I just want to cut in here really quick. I just want to say, if we're not talking about Enigma, what's the point right now?
Honestly, you're right, and I think this has been a great podcast.
I got a call. Just a second.
Whoa.
He's got a call.
I mean, and that just shows you where we are in terms of like professionalism. Jay Marsh hasn't been on for a majority of this podcast, and Pat went ahead and just took a call right in the middle. And here we are, I would say about a half hour past where we should probably have cut it off. And that's
Yeah. Hey, maybe we need to round up the old, chicken coop and get out of this puppy.
honestly, I have to thank you, Stu, because this is it's such an interesting topic. And I hope the people who are listening find it as interesting as we do. Because it's just, the universe is so big and we're so small and so shitty, and we don't want to think we are. And I think that's what everyone gets into is like, no, I'm not that. I'm not shitty. I'm a big deal in wherever I'm from. And we're not. We aren't. So that's what I find so interesting about this. And I do really super appreciate you coming on, because you have a lot of different views than I think maybe the most anyone you would walk around and bump into the street would with. And you also helped us bring out, because I think most of the people on this podcast are more like you than we would admit in general. Because I'm very much a believer in multiverse or aliens and like whatever. Like, I'm not arrogant enough to think that, oh yeah, no, humans on Earth are all we have. So I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you taking your time. It's always way longer than you think it's going to be. So thank you for coming on. It's fascinating discussion.
I think absolutely, I agree with Mahoney. I think we need to bring Stu on again because you have a lot of interesting takes on things. And obviously, it's been a long podcast, but I mean, we could pick any one of the subjects we've talked about tonight and talk about it for an hour and a half. I just want to put a button on the cryptocurrency thing. I think it's scary because it's new. Even myself, I'm like, I hate being 36 because you think of things like, oh, I need to put away gold and silver and cash, and because if everything goes to the chip, they could just say, oh, no, fuck you. You don't got shit. It's done. And then you have absolutely nothing except for gold and silver. But that's been the case for humanity. It doesn't matter if it's a dollar, a Canadian dollar, or whatever they used 1,000 years ago. Gold and silver has always been the standard. And this is just new. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. It's new, and it's scary to people. It's scary to me. I know it's scary to all of you guys, but I would just say protect yourself by having some safety nets. But you should be doing that regardless if we're exchanging pesos or fucking dog biscuits. It doesn't matter. You should always be protecting yourself. And that's the last thing I want to say about cryptocurrency.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I want to go to J Marsh. J Marsh, what do you think about all that?
Honestly, what Jim Marsh had to say today, like, this is the most he's contributed to maybe any podcast. Like,
There he goes.
his thoughts and influences on this have been like, we would be nowhere without J Marsh.
So he chose the parallel universe of the Montana bar.
I'm going to tie cryptocurrency into aliens real quick, okay? So all the crypto, and it's backed by gold too, Kelly, so you don't have to worry about that part of it. The only cryptocurrency backed by a gold standard is called God Coin. It comes from a group of people that live off the coast down in Baja, Mexico, and they're led by a leader called King Rael or Lord Rael. Remember back in 2012 when that ball of light came down above Jerusalem, above the temple? You ever see that video on Fox News or CNN? There was like a orb of light that descended and then it just took off. So Edward Raymond Lear, supposedly that spirit encapsulates his body, and he's the return HaMashiach or Christ. And so there's the congregation of them down in Baja, Mexico, and they have a cryptocurrency, and it's going to be the world currency, and it's going to be backed by gold, and it's called God Coin. And they speak of the Anunnaki and how they are going to be somehow with alien, however they defined alien when this supposed coming is coming. And good videos to watch about that is the Bishop Unfucking Censored. He's on YouTube. It's pretty interesting to keep up with people that claim to be returned messiahs and that type of things. But that one correlates back into aliens. So and
Yeah.
If it's backed by gold, it's already better than the American dollar. So I guess that's good.
Well, okay. We're gonna actually wrap things up here for the first time ever. We're gonna wrap things up here for the first time ever. And honestly, I'm gonna go with Stu. Your last word for Stu. Just give me your last words for this podcast tonight.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me on. It's been a blast. Alien topic is so intriguing because it encompasses so much. I mean, there is no limit really, it's only your mind. So as far as you want to go in the thought process, trying to connect dots with aliens, the sky's the limit. So have fun with that. But it is a nice escape, you know, because things do get you down. I got a lot going in my life right now besides just COVID and just trying to get through the waters with that. So it is a good distraction to have, you know, think about how great we could be and what's all out there. I really do think, though, that we need to be very leery of any alien talk or anything coming from the UN, because the UN actually did start because we did drop the nuclear weapons, and there was a talk of the immediate need to control that. So anything coming from the UN, I think we have to question the immediate future in any type of alien invasion that potentially could be out there. Bringing this back to Skywalker Ranch, it'll be interesting to see what they find there as far as portals. In the first season, they talked about thinking there might be some kind of portal on that residence. So in the bigger picture of things, interdimensional and portals, it'll be sort of interesting with that next 5 years where that takes us with technology too as well.
Thank you so much, Stu. Great show tonight. So we're gonna go right to Mahoney for your last words here tonight on everything Stu said and everything we all said. It's a great fucking show tonight. Go ahead.
Honestly, I got to thank anyone who stuck in with us, you know, this long. I know there's a lot of J Marsh fans. There's none of those. There's no J Marsh fans. So he's not present. And honestly, I'm basically talking to air right now. But know that like there is aliens out there. If you don't believe it, believe in it. If you're offended by anything I said, it was a joke. If you've made it this far in the podcast and haven't realized what I'm saying is a joke, I don't know what more I can do for you. So fuck you. Honestly, fuck you. If you've made it this far and you don't think I'm joking yet, go fuck yourself and fuck you. And if you have made it this far and you don't think I'm joking and still like got past the two go fuck yourselves, please follow us and tell your friends.
I no, by the way, before Kelly starts, I think Mahogany there, he's the one person that does it every single fucking episode. So thank you so much for your marketing. Very smart guy. Let's go to Kelly here. Last words.
Yeah, I didn't know if I'd be able to do this podcast, but now that I see what happened to J Marsh, I'm really glad that I could attend tonight because there's not much of a voice here besides Mahoney and me, and well, I guess us four. Anyways, very interesting. I hope that we have Stu on again because I think that we only hit the tip of the iceberg on so many of these things. We bounce around, but I'll tell you what, after doing the analysis of the podcast, driving down the road from state to state, I listened to the first three. I'm hoping to listen to all of them before we get home because I think that's healthy to, you know, watch game film, listen to game film. This one was great and very interesting. And I hope that anybody out there listening, I know if you're listening, you're not that offended because if you got offended, you were gone an hour ago. But I hope that
if you got offended, you were fucking gone 5 episodes ago.
I hope that if you have something, I'll just throw it out there. If you have something interesting to say, or you are questioning something, or you think something we say is complete fucking bullshit, write to us or say something to the podcast because we're just here talking just like you would do in a living room, hopefully with your friends, drinking some beers. We don't know everything. We're just spitballing off the top of our heads. But Stu, you were very interesting. I knew it would be interesting, and that's why I wanted to chime in. Now I'm going to go contribute to corporate America because me and my wife are going to go across the street and get some Hardee's burgers and go to bed.
Nice. So
Hey, actually, I'll let Kelly stay on after we're done. I have a question for you post.
the post show will be,
Fair enough.
hey, the post show you have to pay money for eventually.
Yeah, well,
Anyways,
thank you guys very much for having me on. Look forward to a next invite whenever on whatever topic. I mean, we don't have to just be, I could be the official alien guy, I guess, if we need to be, but.
yeah. All right, here I'm gonna meet you for a second. Good, but I just want everything. I thank everybody for coming on tonight. The biggest thing I want to say is there's a viewer discretion for coming on, because of the very in-depth things we talked about, multi-universe, different realities, things of that nature. I know there's depression people out there. We're all depressed actually if you're coming on this show, but for the depressed out there, if you're thinking about committing suicide or whatever, hit your hotline or something. We're just analyzing things right here. We're not the god of this show. But anyways, that's the show tonight, guys. Hope everybody enjoys the fucking show, and we'll see you for the next podcast. Goodbye.